Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Megan Demina. I'm the Senior Marketing Manager here at AppBuddy. Thank you for taking the time for today's webinar, Simplify Any Salesforce Process, the 10 Most Popular GridBuddy Features, with presenter Sophie Krich-Brinton, Customer Success Manager and AppBuddy Product Expert. Before I hand things over, I have just a few housekeeping items. If you're unfamiliar with AppBuddy, we are a CRM application that allows you to easily manage your data in a spreadsheet-like view. All the data you need, just a few clicks away. The recording of today's webinar will be available tomorrow afternoon on the AppBuddy YouTube channel, but don't worry, we'll also email you a direct link of the recording, so no need to screenshot or take hurried notes unless of course you want to. Be sure to stay for the Q&A for the last 15 minutes of the webinar. There you'll be able to ask questions you might have about these GridBuddy features. Last, if you experience technical difficulties, please sign off and attempt to reconnect. You can also call the dial-in number provided in your invitation if you experience any issues with audio. And with that, it is my pleasure to get this webinar started. Hi, Sophie. Thanks for being here today.
Hi, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here. So I realize I was not catching up with Megan. I want to show you our pictures. I'm on the left. I am a customer success manager over here at AppBuddy, and I'm going to show you some very cool features, 10 of our most popular features today. But before we dive into that, I just want to briefly touch on why you should be listening to me right now. And I'm sure this is all familiar to you, but some of the most common problems that people have within Salesforce or enterprise systems is you find yourself clicking a lot to make edits to multiple records, related objects. You need to click into a variety of places. Pages need to load. It takes time. Similarly, you have to navigate around to different locations to find all that data. It's not just in one nice, beautiful page. And if you want to get answers, you need a high-level view. You want to pivot your data and kind of study it. You need to use reports and dashboards. And then if you want to make edits on the fly, you have to open up separate tabs for that. So it's very manual, and that's where GridBuddy comes in. What GridBuddy allows you to do is simplify all of the above. There are so many use cases. We're showing you some right now, and there are, anything you can think of. I feel secure saying that GridBuddy can simplify it. And I'm going to show you how. What GridBuddy can do at a very high level is it can take your data, related objects, unrelated objects, put it into a single editable screen where you can make fast, easy updates to multiple items, hit save one time at the end. It's easy to filter your data for yourself, for your team, so that you see only what you need to see instead of just a huge quantity of information. And here are 10 tools that we are going to demo right away to show you how to do all of that. I'm going to just briefly touch on each one now, and then we'll dive into a live demo in about 2 minutes. So the first thing we're going to talk about is conditional formatting. This is probably familiar to most of you. Conditional formatting allows you to format a cell in the grid based on your criteria, and you can do as many rows as you want. That way, your data is eye-catching, and you can navigate to a grid and know immediately what needs your focus without having to spend time to analyze it. Data cards and freeze columns allow you to set up your grid in a way that shows you what's important right away. You can freeze columns on a wide grid so that certain columns stay visible as you scroll. And you can hide certain fields so that you don't have an enormous grid. You only see the high priority fields. You can expand to show additional fields as needed. Number 3 is flat view. Flat view allows you to combine objects so that you have a parent object and a child object at the same top level where you can edit the fields without having to click. Mass update, very straightforward. You can update multiple records in one window with one click. You can clone within GridBuddy, cloning your records. You can add actions to your grids, which allow you to take custom action on a record or on a batch or mass group of records directly from your grid. So you don't have to navigate away to one of your detail pages or wherever you've built your custom buttons. GridBuddy allows you to do object cross-reference. That means associating unrelated objects into a single grid where you can see the data and edit it right there. And then you can apply advanced filters and cross-object filters on that data. A really cool feature that we'll show you almost last is the 3-level grid. So grids, you can create a grid on an object and add up to 4 children, but you can also add grandchildren, a 3-level grid. I'll show you that. And then last, manage tab pages. This allows you to create a tabbed workspace where you have multiple tabs. Each tab is a unique grid so that you can give your team a tab and they have everything they need in one view without having to click around or use a drop-down menu. You can also embed grids onto record detail pages, you know, for that same experience of having everything you need in one place. With that, the demo. Let me jump over to our tool. Okay. So GridBuddy, sorry. All right. So the first thing we're going to talk about, conditional formatting. What you're seeing right now, you're seeing some bright colors. It's probably the first thing you noticed. That's the conditional formatting. What you can do is set up criteria to say, highlight this cell based on this specific rule. So for example, we're seeing red here on close date because I want this grid to shout out at me when my close dates are in the past. That way I know I need to take action. If I change that date to the present, the formatting immediately changes dynamically before I even save. And that's going to be true over here for forecast category as well. Depending on what I pick, it applies the formatting or it does not. And this yellow that you're seeing means something's been modified. If I hit save, it will apply it permanently on my grid. Data cards and freeze columns. Okay, so this little icon here means that data cards are enabled, and that's something you configure as you're setting up your grid. It's optional. And what it does is, if I click on it, it expands to show additional fields for each record. The goal here is to have your grid show you what you need, the fields that you know your team needs to edit immediately without any clicking at all. But if there are some other fields that they want, you know, they want to see the data, they want to be able to edit it, sometimes that's where data cards come into play, because this way you don't have to have a very long grid with horizontal scrolling. Instead, it's just a show hide. And this is really mobile friendly because that way, you know, on a small screen, you can show a certain number of fields and have the rest in an expandable format. Now, freeze columns is very similar. If I make my screen a little bit smaller and I'm scrolling, I might forget, you know, what opportunity am I on as I work over here in Next Steps to Win or whatever. So this little gear right up here on the column headers, if you click this little gear, what you'll be able to do is freeze up to this column. It's just like Excel. It gives you a vertical bar, which is then frozen. And everything to the left of that bar remains static as you scroll up and down. And then you can go back to that gear to unfreeze if you'd like, or, you know, just freeze a different column, whatever you need. Flat view. Flat view allows you to flatten objects. So for example, what we're looking at now is an opportunity product grid. You can see right here, it's built on the opportunity product. But let's just say that your team wants to look at and edit not just opportunity product fields, but also opportunity fields. So you could add the opportunity as a child, and they would go in here, you know, make their edits if you had done that. But a different solution is to flatten them. So right here, what you're seeing are opportunity fields flattened to the same level as the opportunity product. It's fully editable. Your changes save into the opportunity record that's associated here. But visually, we're seeing them at the same level, which is saving us clicks. Editable Forecast View. Now this is one of our big new features. Everyone who's using it is very excited because it's also extremely unique. I'm just going to expand my view just a little bit. So the Editable Forecast View is a filter. And what it means is it's a transposed view. You are able to group by row and group by column to really transpose your data and look at it from a different way. It's a pivot table view, but fully editable in Salesforce via GridBuddy. So for example, what we're seeing right here, across the top, we're seeing our schedule. And on the left, we're seeing our line items. And conditional formatting is highlighting some of these, and I can easily see what the rule is by clicking this little eye. You can see if the schedule date is less than today, color the background red. So I can immediately see what's going on. I have my white space clearly called out, and this Kanban view is very easily editable. Very simple, you know, just a few fields, and then these little ellipses at the top allow you to open the detail panel, and you can put additional fields here. I'm going to show you another example of this. So this is the original grid we were looking at. This forecast view is actually just a filter. So you can apply it to your hierarchical view and have it as an option in your filter menu. And when you select it, what it does is it takes your existing grid. It's not a new grid. You don't have to build anything. And it applies the filter to it. So this filter is showing me forecast category by close date. And I have this pipeline, or sorry, this bird's eye view, because I've set it to be collapsed by default, and I can expand each of these forecast categories to see my records. Each of these is an individual record. The fields are editable based on, you know, my own criteria within Salesforce. And I can add a handful of additional fields over here on the right, keeping it all very compact. Make all your updates just as usual. Click all the way around, update anything you need, and hit save once at the end. So editable forecast view, very, very powerful. You can, you know, forecast out by date or by pick list. You could put stage up here, forecast category could be across the top, and you can turn it into a really high level view by collapsing your data. Now, mass update and formula mass update. Let me jump back. So mass update and formula mass update, what we can do here is if you have a bunch of updates that you need to make the same thing on 20 records, 50 records, 100 records, instead of clicking each one and making the update, even in GridBuddy, which would be easier than without, what you can do instead is use the Mass Update button. Mass Update opens up this Mass Update widget, and your options are, you can make your change and apply it to whatever records you select by checking the boxes, or you can apply it to all records. And that's all of your records, not just on this page. In the Mass Update window, you have all the editable fields for whatever grid you're on. This is my opportunity grid, so I can update my stage, my forecast category. I can also update my children. So I have my contacts here, my opportunity products. And whatever I do here, I can apply it to my selected records. And I have right now selected these 6 records. So if I make a change, it will apply to those 6 immediately. Another option is Mass Update with a formula. So this little FX icon will appear based on the type of field. And you can add or subtract a certain number of days, months, years for a date field, or a number field, very similar. So you have a ton of options for making multiple updates in one window with only a few clicks. Now, cloning is also possible. Hold on one second. Cloning should be right here. Let's see. Okay, well, that's very interesting. So I'm not going to waste our time right now, but cloning appears in these vertical ellipses. And what you can do is just click it and it will clone whatever record you're on, just like that. It will clone the record entirely. It will bring over the children records, or sorry, the children objects, but it will not bring over the actual records because you're only cloning your top level record. So if I were to clone this Nu Skin Social opportunity, I would have a duplicate Nu Skin Social opportunity, but 0 contacts, 0 opportunity products, quotes, and tasks. Actions also live in these ellipses. So custom actions, you can add them if you have custom buttons that point to a Visualforce page URL or Lightning page URL. You can add those here to modify an individual record, or you can add buttons across the top of your grid to do mass actions like mass approve, mass reject, etc. Here, we've added an action for chatter. So for example, if you're a manager, you're looking at your opportunities and you notice that some of them haven't been touched in a long time or some action is needed, what you can do is go directly to the chatter post for that opportunity, just like this, and you can post, an @mention right here to get, call the attention of your team without having to navigate away from your grid. Now, object cross-reference. So you may have noticed that this is an opportunity grid, and I have contacts pulling in for this opportunity. Contacts are not directly related to opportunities, and yet I'm seeing all the contacts for each opportunity right here. That's called object cross-reference. In our grid wizard, which is the setup, the configuration for setting up a grid, 3 simple steps. In step 2 of the grid wizard, you can set up what object your grid is built on and then what children you want within that grid. In this example, we're seeing our opportunity object as our parent. And if I scroll down, you can see I've brought in contact, which is unrelated. And you can bring in unrelated objects into your grid as long as you can map the parent to the child. So we're mapping opportunity to contact using the opportunity account name and the contact account name. And that allows me to make this contact a child to this opportunity and pull in all the associated contacts for each opportunity. You can also, of course, bring in related children, for example, product, quote. You don't need to map these because the system knows what to do. In that same grid wizard, if you go to step 3, you can see up here, I am now on step 3. You can set up advanced filters to filter your grid so that it only shows you the information you or your team really care about. For example, you can filter by field. This is filtering to show me only open opportunities. And I can add as many filter by fields as I want. I can also add advanced filter conditions to say 1 and 2 or 3, for example. If I have children in my grid, I can use cross-object filters, which means I can say, show me all opportunities that have contacts or that do not have contacts. And then it will filter, if it says, has no contact, it will filter those out and my grid will only show me the opportunities with contacts. You can also group. You can group by field, by row. This will group your rows and allow you to expand and collapse your grid, as you saw with the editable forecast view. And you can do up to 3 groupings so that you can have a really, really bird's eye view, which expands to 3 levels before you see your individual records. And you can group by column. This is how you set up the editable forecast view. If it's a pick list or a date field, you can select it right here, and that will transpose your data into that Kanban grid-like view. and it will appear as a filter in your grid at the top right corner. Now, 3-level hierarchies. So in step 2 of the grid wizard, this is where you set up your parent object and your children, up to 4 children. So here we have contact, opportunity, product, etc. However, there might be a time when you need to have 3 levels, a parent, a child, and a grandchild. For example, on this grid, what you're seeing is an opportunity grid, and we have children, contacts, opti, product, etc. What if what you wanted was to see for each opportunity product within each opportunity, the schedule? You want to see the mapped out schedule for each product. With the 3-level hierarchy, you can do just that. For example, right here, this Genwatt diesel product has a schedule. You can see with this little checkbox. And when I expand it using this arrow, I can see a grid in forecast view, meaning transposed to be grouped by column, which is showing the schedule, fully editable with quantity, revenue, and type. And in these little ellipses, I can open the detail panel, and I have additional editable fields right here. So the 3-level grid hierarchy is available to you if you're interested. Just reach out to us. It's not out of the box, but it is available. Now, the last official topic before we dive into Q&A is workspaces, managed tab workspace. So what we've been working on for the most part is this sales rep workspace, inside of which are multiple tabs. Each of these tabs is a grid. Each of these grids can be based on whatever object I configure it with, whatever children and filters I configure it for. So you could have a variety of data in these workspaces, and your team could just spend their whole day right here. They don't need to click around. They don't need to pull any grids from the drop-down menu. They're all right here in the workspace. And of course, you can create an app for your workspace if you wanted as well. Another option is to embed your grids onto a detail page. So this is my opportunity detail page, and you can see I have my activity, my chatter, etc. I also have a grids tab. And when I click on it, I can add a single grid here or a tab of grids. This is a workspace embedded into this detail page. If I prefer, I can do it below my detail page, you know, at the bottom or above. It doesn't have to be a separate tab. And same thing, I can have multiple tabs here. And you can set these up to filter to only show data specific to the opportunity that you're on. So I'm not just looking at every single quote line item. I'm looking at quote line items specific to Nu Skin social opportunity. You can do that for the account detail, you know, record detail page. You can do that for any record detail page. Embed it on the detail tab down below. For example, we're seeing all the opportunities related to that account right now. Or you can add a grids tab, and same thing. You can add a single grid or multiple grids, filter it to show exactly what you need on this account, you know, just the related data for this account. And that officially is our 10 of our most popular features. I'm going to jump back over.
Awesome. Thank you, Sophie.
Absolutely. Sorry, I'm trying to click around and talk. Yeah, so Megan, I'll hand this back over to you.
Great, yeah. Well, yeah, thank you. You did a wonderful job showing us 10 of the most popular GridBuddy features in a short amount of time. There's a lot more to them when we dive a little deeper. And of course, each use case can be different. And I do want to point out that, you know, not only saving hours of time through clicks with your sales reps and sales processes, but it's also good for like customer success, seeing things when contracts are coming up for renewal and things like that. So there's a lot of different use cases and a lot of flexibility with these different features. So before we dive into the Q&A, I just want to mention that if we don't get to your question, you can always email us at info@appbuddy.com, or you can hop over to our YouTube channel where we have short training videos on these features and more. So with that, we have a few questions already. So let's start with this. For formula and mass update, could you use that on a date to have the mass update add different dates based on the formula to create records? Example, if you want to mass create the meeting for once a month, could we use that function?
Okay, that's a great question, Amy. So the formula mass update is very specifically to update existing records. It doesn't create new records. But we are, GridBuddy is very flexible in terms of adding extensions or customizations to it. So it is possible to create a customization or an extension that allows you to do something of that nature. But the mass update widget would not do that.
Okay, so we actually have two questions here about flat view. So
cool.
We're, can you flatten across more than two objects? Example, opportunity, payment, and GAU. I don't know what that is. And then someone is asking if you could please redemonstrate the flat view functionality if time allows.
Absolutely. So the first question, can you do more than two objects? No. Currently, flat view is 2 objects limited. And that's not to say that it won't be extended. We do releases every month with new features coming out all the time, large and small. So that might happen. Currently, it's just 2. And then, yeah, let me demonstrate it one more time. So, and this time I'll dig into how it's done really quickly. This is the opportunity product grid, and we're seeing flattened fields. So the way that this is done, if you're an admin, you're going to have access to the More menu. And if you go into Edit Fields, that's the second step of the grid wizard. And that shows you over here which fields you've selected, which objects you've added to your grid. And you can see right here, opportunity product is showing the mapping. Oops. You're seeing the mapping product to opportunity because it's been merged. So if I click these little 3 dots for the parent object, down here at the bottom, you can see flat view is selected. So it's as simple as that. If you add, and I'll show you what this looks like if it's not selected on a different grid. For example, if I go here and I go to Edit Fields, I can go to a child object and I can select flat view, for example, contacts. If I check it, what it will do is merge the opportunity and the contact fields, and I can then drag and drop in whatever order I want between the data card and the primary area. So you can see all my contact fields got added to the bottom. It's as simple as that. Keep in mind, flat view does delete all of your filters. So if you have a fully fleshed out grid and then you add flat view, you're going to have to rebuild your filters because you no longer have a child to filter from. I'm not going to save that. Next question.
Okay, so I think it applies to this too. Before hitting save, will the edit date be lost if you lose connection to Salesforce instance? Example, logged off after timed out. And is there an undo function after save?
So yes, if you don't hit save, your data will be lost if you lose your internet. Yeah, it doesn't automatically save. You do have to save. So I would save often, as always. The good thing though is if you do a bunch of edits, you can hit save at the end. The whole grid responds to a single save. So you're not going to have to save each individual edit. Make a bunch, save it, make a bunch more, save it. Undo is coming. We don't have undo currently, but it's in the pipeline.
Awesome. So this is a great question. Is all of the functionality available in both Classic and Lightning?
Absolutely, yes. The only difference is in Lightning, of course, we have Lightning components, but in Classic, you can use Visual Force for not exactly the same, but very similar results, and it's completely Lightning ready. So when you migrate from Classic to Lightning, GridBuddy acts the same, looks the same. It's a very smooth transition.
Perfect. So Chris is very nice. Great information today, learned a lot. Question. When I create Save a Report, I've noticed that it's difficult to filter directly in a report. At the top of the report, I'll click on a column cog, and for example, I'll choose Account Team Member Name contains Chris. The report doesn't reduce the number of customers just to my customers. That column appears blank, but those customers still appear in my report. What's the best practice for filtering in an already created report? This is an object cross-reference report.
Okay, so first of all, I think you're meaning grid when you say report. I'm going to assume so. So in a grid, I think, let me see if I'm recreating the issue. You click this cog right here, and you're doing contains. So first of all, just confirm that whatever you're typing is exactly right. Try making sure it's case sensitive. And if it's not behaving the way you expect it to, for example, if I were to type contains new for my new skin, I would expect to see only one record if I only have one new skin. Okay, so this is the correct result. And if that's not what you're seeing, contact us, support@appbuddy.com, and our support team will figure it out and fix it.
Yeah, they're fantastic too.
Yes.
So are there keyboard shortcuts for save?
Yes, we have a ton of keyboard shortcuts. This is a good time to show you our website. So appbuddy.com, of course, I should know this off the top of my head, but I don't. I'll show you though. Our support page on appbuddy.com is very robust, and I would recommend perusing it because, first of all, the GridBuddy user guide, which is available right here, has every single feature that we've talked about, plus hundreds more, broken down with exactly how to do it, every possible modification, and there's a keyboard shortcut section as well. So yes, Command S, Control S for save.
Perfect. So this is a great question. What is an extension? I want to ask the same question about creating records with a formula.
Okay, so the formula, we talked about that. The mass update will not do it. I should mention though, we do have mass create. It's available under the more button. Mass create, you can create records based on your grid. So if you have creatable fields or you've allowed create, then you'll be able to create records here. Based on a formula, that would have to be a customization of some kind. I'm sure we could support you. We would need to just dig into the exact requirements. An extension that's a great question. An extension is basically a customization written in, cascading style sheet, CSS or JavaScript that you plug into your grid. And I'll just show you, you would go to your step 1 of your grid. And at the very bottom, you can add extensions, which can do so much. So for example, here's it's called custom code in the wizard. You can add custom code to change the little gear color at the top of your grid if you want to have it be your brand. Or you can add an extension to hide certain buttons like show if you don't want people to have the option. You can import from Excel. There's so much you can do. I won't get into every single thing, but an extension is basically a customization that you plug into your grid. It's not an out-of-the-box feature. It's not a core product feature, but it is available. And those new ones are being built all the time. If you have an idea, it's something to look into.
Right, I think this is something we're doing more of. Is that correct, Sophie?
Yeah, we have a bunch and we continue to do more. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So yeah, just like Sophie said, if you have an idea, reach out, and then we might already have something and we can just guide you through that process.
Exactly.
So Greg is asking, can you create a button for a third-party app, specifically take a custom list from AppBuddy and send a document via Nintex DocGen?
Oh, that's very interesting. So if you have a URL you can point an action to it. So if you have a URL to the document create in Nintex or whatever it is that does, you can point to it, you know, for example, from here and say open or whatever that does. I'm unfamiliar with that app. But yeah, an action just requires a URL, and you know, a batch action, we've written custom functionality to have it do, you know, a mass action on your grid. So it's possible. It just depends. It depends on the specific requirements and what you have available through your app.
So would it be safe to say if they're having difficulty setting that up, just to reach out and we can help them through it?
I would say reach out and we can dig into it and find out what's possible. Yes, it's always worth asking.
So next question, is field object security used from general Salesforce administration, or there is additional security level? Is there a different additional security level, perhaps override for GridBuddy?
Okay, so GridBuddy respects everything you've set up in Salesforce, all of your permissions, all of your visibility, everything is respected in GridBuddy. And then you can also specify visibility for each grid based on profile, maybe based on permission set, depending on your need. So yes, it respects Salesforce and you can do a little bit more on top of it.
Wonderful. So Gordon is asking, you mentioned child objects, but we have some key lookup relationships, such as a single primary contact logged on every account. Can a flat view for these two be generated, or does it need to be a parent-child?
Interesting. Okay, so basically, if you can get it into a grid, like if you can create the relationship between the parent and the child, if you can do that mapping, once it's in your grid, step 2 of the grid wizard, you can flatten it, and the choice is yours. It just depends on how you want to see it. For example, if in this grid, I just want to see, you know, these are the fields that are important to me, or these, I wouldn't flatten. But if I really needed to see some contact fields, so for example, if I wanted to be able to edit, you know, see the full name and edit the title and the business phone, or I'm always accessing the email from here and I would like to have that at the top level, it might be worth flattening it for that. It's just a convenience and an aesthetic decision for you.
Okay, so how do you create or enable the revenue forecast view?
Okay, let's look at it. So revenue forecast, this is a filter, and I'm just going to show you exactly how it's built. If you're going to more, you're an admin, you go to more and you go to step 3, admin filters, and you scroll down. What you're seeing here is exactly how it's set up. So this is grouped by line item description. That's the row. And then the columns are grouped by schedule date, and that's the vertical. So this creates, you know, the grid where line items go down the left, schedule dates go across the top. And that's what we're seeing right here, line items and schedule dates. And it's really just based on how you've set up your grid. So in this grid, we have, you know, it's a revenue forecast grid. We have line item schedules, and the fields that I've pulled in here, you know, if they're date or pick list, that's what's available for the forecast view. And then I can add multiple filters, which if I had more than one, I would have that filter menu right up here. You can have multiple forecast view filters, hierarchical view filters. It's up to you.
All right, perfect. Well, we still have a little bit of time, so if anyone would like Sophie to run through any of these features again, I think we could probably get through one. I think we've gone through all of the questions.
Yeah, we could build something together. We could dig into any additional features that you've noticed, or you could all, you know, get 20 minutes back. Your call.
You know what, actually, here's a question. Can you import or copy and paste data from Excel?
Oh, interesting. Great question. So out of the box, no. But there actually is a extension for that. and I have it here. So an extension, as we mentioned before, is something that you can add to a grid. It's not out of the box. It's not fully supported. It's just an additional tool that you can play with. And I've added it to this grid just for fun. It gives you this import button. And what you can do is paste your spreadsheet data. There are certain limitations. Currently with this extension, you have to paste single object data, no children, no owner field is supported right now. But then you just copy your spreadsheet, paste it right here, and it will create those records for you. So yes, that is currently available. It's just not a core feature as of yet.
Awesome. So Carlos is asking, does using data cards allow you to have more than 40 fields on a grid?
So 40 fields on a grid is an enterprise limitation. We have two versions, two subscription levels, enterprise and unlimited. So enterprise has almost everything. It does not have more than 40 fields on a grid. So data cards are also an unlimited feature. So if you're on enterprise, you will be limited to 40 fields. You will not have data cards. I suspect that's where that question is coming from. But if you're on unlimited, you have data cards and also more than 40 fields. Yeah, unrelated to each other.
Perfect. All right, so Howard is asking, can we create new bins in the pivot view, group countries together into Asia or North America using lookup rule on the opportunity region, US, Mexico, Canada, North America?
So let's go into one of those forecast views. So here we have forecast category by close date. I like calling it pivot view, actually. I dig that. All right, so here we have it. And if we go into step 3, what you can do is create more bins horizontally, if I'm understanding correctly. So I'll just do it and you can see what it looks like. You can add up to 3 bins on the left-hand side right now. For example, let's say forecast categories at the top. We could do account name within that and owner within that, just for fun. So I currently only have one column view group, but we are going to be building that out so that you have multiple groupings by column, which allow you to expand and collapse. You make a change, you always hit save and then close and refresh. We'll close the pop-up, refresh your grid. Takes just a moment, and then what you're going to see are 3 levels. Forecast view on the top, account name, owner. I'm not sure if this is exactly what you were looking for, but it does get you into the really nitty-gritty high-level view, account name, forecast category, so you can group in multiple levels. But using a lookup filter is not associated with your forecasting view. So you can definitely put a filter on top, a lookup filter, but that wouldn't be official, that wouldn't be part of the forecast view. You would want to set that up separately. So or, in addition, just not part of the column grouping and row grouping.
Okay, so could you do that lookup view specific to countries?
If you have the data in your grid, yep. And depending on how that data, if that data is a lookup field, it should work. It should appear in this menu.
Awesome. Howard says thanks.
For sure.
All right, so Gordon is asking, are Salesforce validations respected? And if so, how do they display? A limit of Salesforce list views, classic, is do you only see the ones that display at the top of the page? Is it the name for GridBuddy?
So validations, I'm guessing that what you mean is, pick list validations, dependencies, and so on. Yes, GridBuddy respects everything you have set up in Salesforce, but I'm not sure that I understand where you would see them. The ones that display at the top of the page. Gordon, so if you could type a little bit more about that, we can answer that one.
Okay. Sorry, I was reading another question. So Eileen is saying, I don't see any extensions in my instance. Is this something support needs to add?
Okay, that's a great question. So extensions are not out of the box. What that means is if you go to edit settings in one of your grids, or you go to GridBuddy, edit custom code, you're not going to have any of these by default. These are all upon request. So if you have a specific need, like you really want to change the, you know, your tab height to be more narrow, or you want to have that copy paste from Excel or whatever, you can request it from support@appbuddy.com. The only thing to keep in mind is that these extensions, while available, are not supported. So if you need to modify it, you know, we would not be able to do that for free. Or if you wanted to, if you had problems with it, same story. So yeah, we can certainly provide these. If you have a developer, you know, someone who does JS or CSS, they are more than welcome to write stuff or modify the stuff we provide you.
But we have seen some really great success with these extensions, just in general, like not needing a lot of further modifications, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Great.
It just depends on the need. You know, if it works, if what you need is what we have, then yeah, it should work fine.
Perfect. And then if they have any other ideas, we can work with them to build those extensions.
Yes, absolutely. Anything you wish that GridBuddy could do, you should reach out to us. See if we already have it for you or if it can get done.
So Daniel's saying, I have not experimented much with the graphs. Can you explain and demo what might be different with graphs in GridBuddy versus Salesforce Classic?
Totally. So GridBuddy has a graph feature up here at the top. If you have set up graphs on your grid, you'll be able to access them from here. Currently, it's one graph per grid. So in this workspace where I have a handful of grids, I would have one graph on each. But this year, soon, in the next few months, we should be adding multiple graphs. And we're talking about adding, you know, a filter functionality. You click on it, it filters your grid, etc. This is all in the roadmap. There's no official timeline. But this is how graphs work in GridBuddy. And these are set up. If you go into your grid wizard, step 2, edit fields. If you scroll past the area where you select the fields on your grid, just beneath that is where you set up your charts and your conditional formatting. So just since we're here, I'll just point that out. Conditional formatting is here. You can set up your rules, pick the color, pick the criteria, etc. But charts, you have 4 types of charts to pick from. You have a size option, and then you just give it a name and you set up the criteria. And it's as simple as that. The main difference with setting up charts and conditional formatting is you need to save it here and then close and refresh versus the top save.
Perfect. So Gordon is following up and he says, in other words, if you have an opportunity field discount type and discount percent and someone enters 30% in the second without item.
Oh, a validation message. I see. I got you. Okay. The validation message is going to push the grid down and appear up here at the top.
Okay.
I think that's it. I hope that's it, Gordon.
Yeah. If not, ask again. All right, so Kevin is saying, sorry if I missed it earlier, but can charts be configured for flat view grids?
Absolutely. I'll show you. We'll do one right now. So this is our opportunity product flat view grid. If I go to more edit fields and I scroll down past the area where I set up my fields, we can just add a quick bar chart. You just pick whatever, it pulls from the primary area. So if you flattened, you're going to have your primary and your flattened fields. Oh, I'm sorry. You're going to have your primary fields, not your flattened fields. So for example, product name, am I saying that correctly? I'm actually second guessing myself. I feel like I might need to dig into that a little bit more for you.
Okay, well, I answered yes, but maybe.
Well, we can just do it right now. The question is here, we're seeing opportunity product, opportunity name. So these are all opti product fields, and line item schedule is the child. So the flattened opportunity fields are not appearing here. But you can put a chart on a grid with the flattened fields. So it's possible, but it looks like you are not able to bring in those fields.
Can you show us how you do it with flatten, the flatten fields?
It looks like they're not, this off the
Okay,
top
sorry.
of my head, I think that it's currently not supported. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, misunderstood.
Yeah.
Okay. So Natalia says, will we be able to see reference line on charts?
Reference line, Natalia, can you say a little bit more about that? Oh, do you mean like a line through the chart if you have a certain type of chart like this? Or like this, like an average line across the middle or something?
Yes. As I create dashboards in Salesforce, there is no reference line.
So currently, these are the 4 chart types, and we don't have that line showing you the median or whatever it is. But charts are getting built out a lot this year. We do have a lot of ideas on our roadmap. So I would stay posted.
Okay. All right. Well, if no one else has any other questions and we don't want to demo anything else, I think this is a good place to stop, and we'll give you 9 minutes back in your day. So if you do come up with another question, feel free to email us at info@appbuddy.com, and we will respond to you as quickly as possible. This was a quick view of some of our most popular features, but keep an eye out for future webinars where we'll individually dive into some more of the robust features. And if you're interested, we do have a webinar on GridBuddy Forecast View, so you can head over to our website for more details on that, and it's under our webinar section. Please join us February 28th for our next webinar with Nicole Kasimba of Houghton Mifflin. See how they initially purchased GridBuddy to solve one problem, but quickly implemented multiple GridBuddy solutions to transform their sales processes, increase sales. So thanks again, Sophie, and thank you all again for being here with us today. We hope to see you next time. I'm Megan, and from all of us at AppBuddy, have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.